Seeing Beyond, Living Transformed is a spiritual crossing of the threshold to the world of being a truly expanded human being. Join mediums Cheryl and Kelley for conversations about discovering deep spirituality, developing your intuitive and empathic skills, and personal mediumship. Each episode will focus on tips, tools, and techniques to help you understand and expand your own inner gifts of life journey. Now, your host of Seeing Beyond, Living Transformed, Kelley and Cheryl.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Seeing Beyond, Living Transform, and we are hosted on WLTK-DB. And today, Cheryl is out, so I want to welcome Lauri as my co-host. Yay. And I think you guys know Lauri, and we all love her, so thank you, Lauri, for being on the show this week. And then I'm super, super excited, and I know Lauri is too. We've been talking about it for a long time, that we have a special guest, AJ Barrera. Welcome, AJ. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And I do want to share a little bit about you, AJ, to all the people who don't know. I'm not going to read your whole bio because you've done a lot in your career, but I do want to read a little bit of it. You know, AJ is a Los Angeles psychic medium and intuitive counselor. He has steadily risen to become one of the most accredited and leading psychic mediums in the industry today, and I can attest to that. And not only is AJ a professional psychic medium, but he's also a certified intuitive investigator, psychic detective, where he works with numerous families and law enforcement agencies, giving insight on missing loved ones, whereabouts, on cases that are active, unsolved, or that have gone cold. AJ travels frequently to Orange County, San Diego, Riverside, and Las Vegas, conducting large and small audience events, as well as conducting individual private readings and group readings. And let me just say, he's also coming to Sacramento at the end of this month. So you guys are all in for a treat if you live in the Sacramento area. So thank you, AJ. Welcome to the show. We're very excited to have you here. And I'm going to leave it with that right now. And I just want to say hello to Michelle and hello to Brenda and everybody else that's out there watching. Let us know where you're from in the comments. Let us know any questions you have for AJ. And in the meantime, I know Lauri and I were just going to bombard him with so many questions that I don't know if we'll try to get to yours. How's that?
Right.
I'm going to let you go, Lauri. Like, you asked your question first because I know you've got a lot. And I thought, well, let's start with Lauri.
Oh, well, thanks. So AJ, seriously, first of all, I just commend you for, I've known of you for years, and I just got to commend you for your way of dealing with ghost hunting. I have such a it doesn't have to be scary, you
Right.
know, and like you're like what I read on your thing today was that you're about making sure people realize that there's really nothing to be scared of, you know,
Yep.
taking the fear out of it and that sort of thing. And I just wanted to ask you about that. Like, how did you come to that, like, sort of realization, or how did you start your whole ghost hunting part of your career?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I've always been fascinated with, back in the days, I Dream of Genie, Bewitched, you have the X-Files, you have, the Twilight Zone. So all these TV shows, I was always fascinated by all that stuff, like the paranormal, the UFOs, like you name it, everything that was like weird and bizarre. That was my thing. I was like down that alley. I'm like, I want to know more. I want to know more. So the more that I went down that road, I started understanding a little bit more of like the afterlife, if you will, because I grew up watching certain television shows or talk shows, not really growing up watching them, but there was Sally Jesse Raphael, Jenny Jones, Ricky Lake, Oprah, and they had like psychics and mediums and so on and so forth that were on there that were making connections in the audience and taking questions and so on and so forth. So for me, I kind of thought like, well, this is a bunch of BS. There's no way people can actually do this for a living. There's no way people can do this. So they were all planted in the audience. They told them what to say. This is all set up. So it kind of went on that path first, I think a little bit. And then the curiosity of trying to understand the afterlife was kind of my big thing, because I want to understand like how spirit communicates. Like, how does energy communicate? It wasn't really connecting to spirit. It was understanding, how can I document? How can I capture a photo, an EVP? And those who do not understand what an EVP is, it stands for electronic voice phenomenon, where you actually capture spirit on the white noise. So for me, it could be something as a very simple digital recorder, which is this is what I use for all my ghost hunting. I have like several of these, and I plant them all over the place. And we kind of let them run for 6 hours to go back, and we may not even capture any EVPs. And there's like class A, class B, C, so on and so forth, which represents the level, or I guess the quality of the EVP. So for me, it was really trying to like understand there's something more than just the physical realm. And that's what kind of like opened that door, because I didn't want people to be afraid of afterlife. I don't want people to be afraid of death, because at a young age growing up, I was terrified of dying. Terrified. Never had a near-death experience, never lost anyone close to me in my life at a young age. So it was something that was just like past life. I don't know what it was, but for me, it was kind of like I needed to go down this journey to understand the afterlife, if you will. Is there something more? And I've been doing this work now for 21 years, and I for sure can tell you there's something more than this physical realm.
Yeah.
Oh my
gosh.
Let me digress here a little bit, because we just jumped the gun because we were so excited. I love the story of how you started out and became a psychic medium. And I know it started when you were in high school with a beautiful English teacher, right, who spotted you. Please share that story, because it is like, to me, I think it's the best story ever of how somebody figured out who they were, and at such a young age. It makes me so happy.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and she may actually be watching. Her my mentor is I still call her my mentor. I mean,
She is, you're right.
Yeah, she's still my
That's
mentor.
so cool.
Ellen Marin, she's actually was my freshman art and science teacher. So I actually had her from like 6th grade. Sorry, yeah, from not 6th grade. Yeah, no, not 6th grade. That's when I started discovering the work, but it was more so my freshman year. So it was before I actually started taking science or art. I was taking that as like kind of like to get extra credit so I can graduate a little bit early. I didn't want to stay like all the 4 years, so I wanted to take more credits. And during that time frame, she actually had me do like this drawing of like, okay, draw this, and draw it into words and this and that. Like, I can't remember the art piece, and she's gonna kill me for not even remembering it. But she tells me this is what it's called. But it's this piece where you kind of like, so for instance, say the word is chili or chili pepper. You would draw like the words into like a chili pepper, basically, as
Oh,
a shape of
fun.
it.
I
So
love
what
that.
I did, I drew afterlife, and I drew angels and wings and this and that. And at the age she was there, and there was another medium that was there in her classroom who was actually a good friend of hers as well. And they looked down at each other, and they're like, how does the kid know this? Like at that age, because it wasn't even popular back then. There wasn't any TV shows back then. There wasn't any like, anything really out there that was actually, like mediums that was doing the work, except for, again, talk shows. So it was kind of that little spark. So from my freshman year to my senior year, I actually started working with her. I had her for every single class, for a teacher assistant, art, science, whatever you needed. Like, I was there, and we would talk every day. I would get there early before class, just to talk with her, to know everything about it. Even after school, I would help her wash all the paints and everything else, to understand everything from out-of-body experiences, astral projection, energy, auras, all that stuff. So she was teaching me during the time. Now, I don't want people to get the wrong impression either. This is not like back. I don't want to like say anything weird, but it's not like how today's times where parents and teachers and students. It's not like that stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
No, it was
my mom was actually
wholesome thing.
my mom was working at the district, so she was actually working at every location I was at. So when I was, which was kind of
what a shame that we have to qualify that.
I know, right?
But I so appreciate that. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry,
thank you, but it is sad.
Well,
Yes.
you would think like things have changed from 20 years ago. You know what I
They
mean?
really have. They really have.
Yeah, and so for that time frame, my mom was, when I was in junior high school, my mom was at that school. So when I transferred to high school, my mom was at my high school. So I never really got away from my mother. So she was always like hawk. She knew everywhere I was going, what I was doing. So she knew what I was involved with. And my parents were very devout Catholics. They still are, and they still believe in a God, depending of your viewers are. If it's a God or Allah or Buddha, whatever their belief is, the universe, source, whatever you want to call it. So we started working with that. And my mom, wasn't really a big believer. She thought it was just a phase that I was going through. And I'm like, Mom, I've been doing this now. Like at the time, I was like, Mom, I've been doing this work for 15 years. This is not a phase. This is what I do for a living. This is what I do. She was so afraid to tell people what I did for a living because she would say, oh, my son's a consultant. He's a consultant. He's a consultant. But
That's a good word. That's a good word.
Consultant for what? You know what I mean? So for her, it was about her, people understanding it. But it was really the journey for me because I really had a unique journey because I did not, see spirit. I did not feel spirit. I did not do readings at a young age. It wasn't like spirit was always around me. It was just more so curiosity than anything else that grabbed my attention to maybe understand intuition, if you will.
Yeah. Well, it was clearly the right path for you because everything lined up for you at a very early age. And you had such a lucky break by getting on the radio. At what age were you? 18, 19?
19 and a half. It was on Coast 103.5 in Burbank in LA. And I had a radio show with, it was Angels in Waiting. And that was kind of like a fluke thing. I didn't have a website. I didn't have I don't think I even had a professional email. I didn't have a phone number. It was just kind of like a fluke thing. Someone sent in an email, said, hey, check out this kid. He's great, this and that. Because, I was going to JC college and I wanted to be a firefighter. I wanted to be in law enforcement. I want to go down that path. Didn't really quite happen. So within
plans.
Well, it was, you kind of did end up that way, but not exactly the way you wanted.
100%.
Yeah.
So, and Spirit kind of works in an amazing way because I think it was within my first radio appearance. They said, okay, we'll see you next week. And I was signed with I was with Clear Channel, I think for 4.5 years. And I was doing the radio shows and it was like, first it was like once a week. Then it became twice a week. And then it became almost every day that I was doing radio shows and talking to people from all around the United States. And back then we didn't have the social media the way it was, we didn't have the marketing tools and things of that nature. So things were different. I think things would have been very different too with people's perceptions of like what mediums are or what they're like. So now that you have social media and I want to say this respectfully, now that you have like these social media platforms, especially TikTok, every person on there is a tarot card reader. They're a psychic. They're a medium.
I love it.
And they're giving a lot of false information, though. That's the sad part.
Yeah.
It's a lot of false information. And, I don't want to be the a-hole about it.
It's upsetting, though.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I'm on there, I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. But I'm like, yeah, but this is how it really is. Or two, I'll let people know this is my personal opinion. But, people are always going to have their own opinion. But don't, spread negativity and don't spread fear. And I think I see a lot of that on TikTok.
That is my thing too. Do not do that. There should not be fear in this.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's another medium who is also on TikTok and other social media apps trying to, demystify these falsehood things that people are posting. And so she takes and does like side by sides with theirs, and then she tells, and I love the way that she does it and stuff. But unfortunately, she gets attacked a lot because they get mad. But you do it in a way where it's like more loving.
I think we might know the same person. Is it not? Is it Megan? Possibly?
Yes.
She's great at what she does.
I love, and she's funny, and she's witty, and she's cute. But they're mean to her sometimes. Where I think you do it in a way where it's a little bit more subtle. They don't realize that you're.
That's great.
She's just straightforward, jumps right into it. And I love her videos. I want to repost them all the time. I mean, because I like that she's educating people because it's frustrating and she has a way with words. So she's really good at it. But so do you. And I feel like your way is more like, sorry, I'm going to say this, but it's almost like, grandma's like nurturing you into this, it's like a very loving, sweet way that you do it. And I like that.
I'm laughing because people sometimes say I kind of have this Yoda and a Winnie the Pooh style. It's kind of like, oh yes, master, but at the same time, oh, namaste. You know what I mean? But I'm not really like namaste.
There's just like a lot of love coming from it, and that's what I love. And I think that's great. And I love her. I'm not putting her down in any way. Like it's just two different styles.
Yeah,
but
that's the way it's supposed to be. I mean, it's supposed to be like Spirit doesn't want us to be like negative and spreading the fear. I mean, Spirit wants us to like spread the love, spread the happy.
Right.
I mean, and that's what I appreciate about you.
Yeah,
because
me too.
Well,
That and your smile lights up a room.
Oh, well, so do you, both of you ladies. So
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
no, I think it's just being honest and trying to, get people the understanding. And, I just don't want people to go off the wrong direction, because I really didn't have a lot of support there. And I can say, on my journey of becoming, a medium, if you will, or being who I am then, or what I was then, there was only, I can say, three individuals that really kind of took me underneath their wing, if you will, and kind of like guided me. And two of them are very recognized. One of them obviously is my mentor. The other two are very recognized people. And I was so surprised
Go
because a
ahead
lot
and
of
say
them,
their names.
well, I'm going to say John Holland and Robert Brown. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love John Holland.
Yeah.
I
And
went to workshop with him one time, and he was actually pretending to be just like one of the attendees. It was because it
Yeah.
was Tony Stockwell's, and he was acting like he was one of the students, and he was in my group, and I was like going, I'm pretty sure that's John Holland. And I was kind of starstruck, and he was in my circle, my healing circle group. And so I got on the phone and called Allison, and I'm like, Allison, I think John Holland's in my group. And then like my service kept dying because I was out at Omega, and she's like, what are you saying? So I'm getting on my Facebook Messenger. I think John Holland's in my group. I'm going to take a picture of him without him seeing. So yeah, I spent a week with him, and he was taking Tony's course because they were going to teach a course together. But he didn't tell anybody who he was, but people knew who he was in the class because, Medium Fleur was in there and Lauren Rainbow. And so I was like totally starstruck.
John Holland, he's super, super humble. I mean, like,
nice.
he didn't know who I was. I knew of his work because I was a big fan of like, just understanding mediums in general, understanding the work. And I love watching mediums work because I don't think you can ever know everything about mediumship. And I love that everyone has their own flair, their own style, their own way of delivery. Some are clairsentience where they feel information. Some are clairvoyant where they see it. Some of them are clairaudience. So, with me, I'm a little bit of all three when I work, but, some people work differently, and some are inspirational mediums. Some are evidential mediums. Some are, spiritual mediums. So there's many different levels. Yeah, there's different types. And, Robert Brown and John, like it's weird because I think a lot of people saw it back then. I was a young kid. I didn't know anything. They perhaps they thought I was trying to take something out of their career or whatever. And I'm like, there's so many dead people around. There's
plenty. Yeah, there's plenty of people.
That's
the thing. There's enough
competition.
For us all.
Yeah. It's like I feel like we all just support each other.
Yep.
There's no competition because, and I love what Mavis used to say, you build a reputation, not here, but in the spirit world.
That's
and
right.
The spirit brings you your clients, not here. So there really isn't competition.
Yep.
And 100%. She would tell me that all the time. And I know she's up there now, and she's saying, thank you, Kelley, for sharing my words.
100%. I think that's the biggest thing with I think, mediumship in general. I think everyone wants to obviously be at a certain level. And I think we all can be there. It's just how you accept yourself as a medium. I think some of us don't have that
growth.
Right. The growth is like, I text you, the other day or something, about your work and everything, to watch you grow from what, you starting out your work and where you're at today. It's a beautiful thing. And I love watching people grow. Like I'm there to support and help them. I'm not here to say like, it's about me, it's about that. It's not about that, because I think if you come from a place of the heart chakra, or just from the heart in general, not rather from a place of ego, you're going to do the right thing for not only for yourself, but for the people around you, because, you're only one, I'm only one light worker. If I can have 5 light workers around me that can assist doing that job, I'm all for it.
Yeah. And you know what, too? It's like, I don't know about you, but I have referred, like people have come to me and it's like, you're not supposed to read them, some for whatever reason. And I'll just like refer them to somebody else,
Yes.
And if you can just live a spirit-led life that way, that's kind of how I roll. It's like, okay, spirit doesn't really, I don't think I'm supposed to read you, but my friend Kelley, she's amazing. You should go to her. That feels like more of a right fit.
Thank you.
Why can't we why can't we just be like that? Exactly, Courtney. Right? There's no one is, everybody is vibrates at a different rate, right? So I might vibe with one person, but somebody else might vibe with somebody else.
Yeah, 100%. And again, I think the reason why it's facts is because we are all different human beings or energetic beings. We all work different ways, and I think it's just find the right balance. I mean, I've worked with many different people over the years, and just to work with them. And now it's like this year for 2023, it seems like that I'm working with more people in a very blessed way, that they kind of came into my life either directly or indirectly, and it's kind of like one of those things, and I kind of see that spirit kind of just guiding me to the right person. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do,
and you follow it, right?
Yeah,
You just
I
follow
go with
it.
that gut. I go with that gut. Yeah, it's about trusting that, and I think that's one thing about is surrender and trust, because when you have that ability to recognize it and knowing that, okay, that's intuition, that's spirit, rather than saying, oh crap, I shouldn't do that, that's part of ego. You know what I mean? So I think when you listen to that over and over again, that thought coming in, that's going to be the part of the ego stepping in.
So I'm dying to hear about the class that you're ready to teach.
Yeah,
I'm
tell
sorry,
us about
Kelly.
the class. No, you go for it. I love you, Lauri.
2,500 questions. I got
So for everybody who's in the Sacramento area or near Sacramento, like maybe it might be worth the 2 or 3 hour drive. AJ is teaching a 1-day course at my shop, Levin Light Center, and it's an intuitive investigation course. So tell everybody about this, AJ.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's one of my favorite courses. I created this about oh my god, maybe 5-6 years ago. There wasn't really a course out there that really taught this type of work. They may have touched around the subject about here and there, but there's never been really a course, at least that I've known them. I know there's been certain people
Allison
overseas.
does one,
right?
She did one.
Yeah, she did. Yeah,
and that's one thing that I really want to do, because that's something that was a big passion of the career I wanted to go, was to be in law enforcement, to be a firefighter, to work in those fields. And it kind of went in a different path for me, because I kind of created like different material, different courses, different classes, just to kind of teach people the protocols of it, because there are obviously certain protocols working with law enforcement, working with families, working with PIs, private detectives, and things to do and things to not do, because there are a lot of things that I see people do that are intuitives and psychics, and they're all over social media sharing about their leads and about their theories and this and that, which is a big no-no. There's a lot of things that they can do to hinder the investigation, or two, they may kind of like make themselves look bad by either a small department or big department. So you would not believe how many times I'm like, I cringe when I hear people like, oh, like, what was it? The Gabby Petito, when that whole thing happened,
which is a very sad. Some of the things people were saying.
Very tragic thing. Very tragic thing. And it's just a big thing that just blew up. And I don't know if you guys know this, and this is actually a true thing. They call it the white woman syndrome, which is because of the white woman, blonde hair, this and that. The advertiser compared to someone who's African American or someone who's Hispanic and so on and so forth. Which is why they say they got that, which is a true thing, and even law enforcement will say that. But it's the thing about that situation is that so many people, again on TikTok specifically, a lot of these so-called psychics, intuitives, and readers were out there, and I just, again, I cringe, because it's about the ethics and being ethical with it, but also protecting your reputation as an individual, but yourself. Your integrity. Your integrity is everything, and you don't want to put that out there, and all of a sudden now you have all these repercussions, these consequences from either the family members or so on and so forth, because that's something that you don't want to do. But I love teaching people how to remote view. Like in the course, the intuitive investigation course, it's teaching people how to remote view in a very simple way. We also do a control remote viewing where we actually work with coordinates. We also work with photos of describing and identifying what the difference is, and what an imprint, and what there's so much to it. And I remember telling Kelly, I'm like, I created a PowerPoint for this workshop. I'm like, is there any chance I can do this, because I have papers like my own thing, and I'm like, it's literally about this thick, like my paperwork for the course. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm just gonna be in my notes, just not even looking at anyone. So I figure with the PowerPoint, I can at least teach, and they can hear my work, and they can see everything.
I got it all.
But I love it. It's one of my favorite courses. And don't get me wrong, I love teaching. I love doing my readings, but this work, because it's calling to me. It's a passion. And then after I created that course, I think about a year and a half later, I ended up working with some very high-end, high-level detectives. I'm not going to mention the department, not going to mention who they are, just for their, integrity and who they are.
Sure, of course.
And now I teach those courses with that department, those detectives, for intuitives to understand how to work with law enforcement and how to work with that and that side of the tape. So, and there hasn't been a course like that. So I figure that, by bridging both worlds, the skepticism, but also bringing in the intuitive side of things, it's about understanding both, because, detectives don't know how to work with us. Law enforcement don't know how to
I
work
can
with
imagine. Right? Like, oh my goodness.
They'll go in there and look at you like, one thing I tell people, don't go in there with your tarot cards, don't go in there with your crystals, don't go in there and saying this is what I get. Like, they're gonna look at you as a freaking joke, to be quite frank.
Or a suspect if you get really good information,
Because it's not tangible. It's not, they can't touch it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Evidence.
Well, even with evidence, I mean, like, and this is something that I teach in the course as well, is that, just because as an intuitive that we say, hey, detective, John Doe, this is where the body is and blah, blah, blah. And the detective goes there and he finds the body, says, hey, I see the foot, sticking out. The detective has to find probable cause. How did he know the body was there? He can't say a psychic told me. He can't say that this is what happened, because honestly, because what happens that then we're looked upon as a CI or a citizen informant. And if we are a CI, we would have to obey by government rules and government officials. So you can't really be a CI. So you're going to be just a witness, if you will, So there's a lot of red tape I don't think people really understand about the work. And I'm not an expert in law enforcement teaching these courses, but I can definitely teach you what I do know from working with small and large departments and working with families, and what I do know from working with departments, with detectives, of teaching me their work and what to do.
Yeah. Can I little sidetrack here and tell a story about you, AJ, on the Queen Mary?
Oh, that's so funny.
You were there, weren't you?
No, Ed Torrey's. I was just talking. Do you know Ed Torrey's, by the way? He was just saying, you need to ask him about the Queen Mary.
So I'm going to ask him about that. So we went on a workshop there, and AJ, Allison put the workshop together, and I know you were there with your wife and a bunch of other mediums in SoCal. And I don't remember what it was about. I just remember you had the EVP stuff going on. We were standing on the bridge and it was doing the static thing, and we were all excited. And I'll be honest, everybody had a few drinks because it was like kind of an after hours thing that we were doing. It wasn't part of the workshop, I don't think.
No, it wasn't.
We were just having fun. We had the workshop was during the day, and so everybody's had a real. But the stuff AJ was getting, he got the guy. There was a murder that had happened on the bridge of the Queen Mary years ago. I don't know how long ago. I don't remember the whole thing. But the guy's in prison in Florida, I believe. I don't know what it was. Something. But you got his prison number on the EVP from the spirit saying the person who did it, right?
Yep. So
we all heard it.
Yeah. So this was kind of on a whim thing. This wasn't even planned to do an investigation.
I missed part of it too. I was mad. I missed the pool.
Well, people that know my wife is a person that likes to go on adventures. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
oh my God, I love that.
She's great. I know. She gave him a sip of her water and he had spit it out because it was not water. Yes, I remember. It was like we were all having a blast. It was the most fun I've had in a workshop ever. So you need to do another one.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many amazing things. And what Kelley was talking about, like this thing that's going through frequencies, it's called an ITC or Spirit Box. So it scans through frequencies or radio frequencies. So the good thing, I guess, for me being at the Queen Mary, there's not much signal there, even with radios and this and that, and even using small radios. So you don't get a lot of information. So what you're tuning into is to like not necessarily the radio stations, because there's not very many that are coming through, but it's actually words. So say, for instance, the words that come through says, my name is John Doe. I'm just going to use that. And it comes through on 3 different levels, or, for so many different radio stations. We know it's coming from an entity, an energy, if you will. Not entity as negativity, but an energy in general. Right. So that information comes through to identify that. And I always tell people, like, if things that don't make sense during an investigation, you can go back and research that, which is like the prison number, the name, the location of where this person was from. But what I've noticed with documenting the paranormal, or just documenting, the afterlife, if you will, I don't even want to call it so much the paranormal, because it's normal to me and it's normal to us. You know what I mean? So,
exactly.
so it's part of those things that I just see as part of, like, what I do every day. And when I have these spiritual moments, I just acknowledge spirit and I thank spirit. And don't get me wrong, there was certain event, and I'll go back to what has happened here about a couple weeks ago. I don't want to divert.
Yeah, I want to hear stories.
Yeah, we love it. We love it. Tell us.
So, regarding the ITC and all that stuff. So, doing investigations again is key. I have so many, devices and everything else, and even Ouija boards and all that stuff. And Ouija board is actually a great tool to use if you know how to open and close it.
Yes.
And I think people, the Ouija board has the wrong rap, basically has the wrong perception because again, a lot of social media, a lot of movies, and so on, so on and so forth. So
we did the Ouija board as a family when I was 3 years old.
Yeah, I believe
it. The Ouija board as children with my mom.
If you know how to work with it, you know how to use it, it's gonna come out amazing.
But see, that's what worries me, is that like people that don't know how to work with it properly, and that's when so I usually just tell people, I kind of stay away from that. My personal, that's just my.
We didn't know what we were doing, and we had nothing but fun, exciting love come from spirit.
Of course.
So I don't know. We were just like a fun family thinking like it's a toy.
Right. Well, I think it's about us, really, now that we're at a different point, now that we're older, we're like, oh crap, it wasn't a toy.
Right.
It was made originally by the Parker Brothers. And I actually have the original Parker Brothers one from 1984. Check this out. So I used to live in a small suburban city in Hacienda Heights, California, like small little place. You literally drive in and drive out of it. So I remember my dad sent me up in the attic and he goes like, hey, like, can you get up there? And like, I can't grab whatever this thing is. So I get up in the attic and there's a box there. And in that box, there's a Ouija board and all these pictures and news articles from maybe the people that we don't even know.
Did it freak you out at first?
I was.
It's kind of like something you see in a scary movie.
Yeah,
no, it does. It really does, Kelly.
You're like, don't go. Don't grab it.
No,
don't go up there.
No, well, I brought it down. And so I was like, what is this? And my parents were like, oh my God. I started going through it. My dad ended up throwing it away, and I ended up taking it out of the trash. And all I'm like, oh, we're not gonna throw this away. And you know what happened? It disappeared. And so a lot of the articles disappeared, but the Ouija board I kept because it was something that I did not have. And I think my parents were so freaked out by it. But I think that's where the early age of the fascination came in. With the Ouija board was actually finding it in the attic at my parents' house. And we lived in Hacienda Heights for 16 years, and then until we moved. So it was kind of one of those moments. But yeah, I mean, I have so many different stories with the paranormal. But Kelly, a lot of people know I'm a big animal lover. I love animals. I've lost, 3-4 dogs now. So we lost our Doberman in December. I think was it December last year? December last year.
Such a sweet dog too.
Sweet Doberman. So we have like these talking buttons, and we have a new puppy. And if you don't hear,
I heard.
Thank God.
Oh yeah, I did. I did hear
a cutie pie, and your wife posted adorable pictures.
Yeah, she's a sweet Doberman. She's about 8 years old. So we got these talking buttons that my wife saw on TikTok, and the dog, and they work. I was like, okay, I'm not a big believer.
Oh, you got those?
Yeah, she talks. Will go outside. She'll use the restroom when she.
I want to get one for my dog.
It's amazing. It's like how they communicate. But again, I'm very skeptical with everything. So I'm like, maybe it's coincidence. Maybe it's because
I don't know. But if there was a bad word,
look at you being skeptical.
I know my dog Daisy would use the bad words if there was bad words.
You can record all that stuff.
I'm pretty in tune with her, and I can hear her thoughts. And oftentimes, I'm pretty sure she talks back to me.
Well, animals do. Yeah. I mean, when we have these moments, I always try to teach people about recognizing the subtleties. You know what I mean? Like, when we go see, like, I even go see mediums, like demonstrations. I don't go there really for a message. I go there just to watch. So, Kelly and I are obviously working together on, Friday, March 31st, like in 2 weeks in Sacramento at
my Love and Light Center.
Love and Light Center. Yeah. And we're doing that event from 7 to 9. Yes. So when people go to an event like that, they're wanting to make that specific connection, that evidential connection of like, that is definitely my mom. What I try to teach people and express people is that we need to recognize the subtleties of the indirect messages. So say, for instance, I'm reading for a lady in the audience or a gentleman in the audience, and everything sounds so parallel, like the name, the passing, the dates, and da-da-da. And people go like, God, I wish my mom would have came through. See that as your mom's way coming through, or your loved one coming through.
Exactly.
So this is the big thing about what I feel like is the message, not so much the medium. It's
Right.
not about us. It's
It-
about the message.
It's in
That's
the
right.
information. Can I share a story that was
Please,
very
please.
interesting? I went to go see, in the beginning of my development, I went to go see James Van Praagh do a dem out in Irvine. And I was in this audience with about 100 people. It was at like a church out there. And I'm sitting next to a woman and her husband. And he brings through a grandmother whose name is Frances. And I'm like, oh, I have a grandma. So we raise our hands. And then he brings through, you know, her husband's name is William. So we both raise our hands. That's my grandfather.
Wow.
And then she's like, and there would be a daughter named Sandy and a son named Steve. We're like, raised our hand. And I'm like, are we related? I'm like, is there something going on here? I mean,
Wow.
everything was identical until the last little bit. I forget what it was. There was one thing that was off. So it was her message, but I could take it 100%. So to me, like that was Spirit's way of coming through for me with this lady. My
Yep.
loved ones were trying to come through, but she needed the message more clearly. But the message still resonated with me. To me, that's beautiful. You know,
100%. 100%. Well, you
the
know,
fact that we're sitting next to each other was so interesting too.
I was just gonna say
You
that.
put
I was
that
just
out.
gonna say that.
It was
Yeah.
crazy. And that's happened on more than one occasions in DEMS with my grandparents coming through and then my son Ron coming through. Cindy Keza brings, I've gone to 2 of her DEMS over 2 years apart. Both times the same woman was there. We both lost our son the same date.
Wow.
Both our
Jeez.
sons were like so identical and both had a younger, I mean, and we're both like going, okay, this is like deja vu.
Wow.
We came the same time a year later to see
Yeah.
her. So it happens to me quite often. I think Spirit likes to give me piggybacks.
Yeah. Well, those are the best opportunities that
I
I
love
tell
them.
people that are like either in a reading, in a group reading, or in, you know, an online event or in person. Like, again, those are those messages that you want to walk away. I know everyone wants to have that direct medium and they want that medium to go like, hey, blah, 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 this is what I want. But it's not going to happen that way with every medium. We all work differently. And I think it's about us, again, understanding the message. I mean, there's been, you know, many times, like I'm known for a lot of weird references, like like bizarre
too.
left field references, and I bring them up in a reading live event, and you know, most of my events are filmed, and I will bring it up, and I'm like, you know, I don't mind looking like an excuse my language, dumb. I was gonna say something else, but
You can say it. You can say it. I have no filter.
so
Go
cute.
for it.
You're so cute. Excuse my language, but dumb.
I said never mind. Let me catch myself, you know, because I feel like it's some
That was
way.
good. That was
Yeah.
great.
No,
Well,
we're all
because-
adults on this time. Okay, don't
I
worry.
mean, there's just bizarre stuff, and I always realize that things that don't make sense to me typically make sense to the client 100%. Like
course.
I remember, and I share several different moments, and I think one of them is on my TikTok, and I did a reading, and I asked the gal, hey, can I, you know, share a piece of this reading, you know, on my TikTok? And this is a reading that I did maybe about a year ago. I can't remember. And I was seeing Chester the cheetah, and I was seeing this lion, I was seeing the Cheetos, and I'm seeing like, I go, I have no idea what your dad is bringing up here. And she was shocked, and because I look at my camera majority of the time rather than looking down at my screen. So I look down and I see her reaction like, oh my God. She goes like, my dad is named Chester, and he has a tattoo of Chester the cheetah on his leg.
Oh my
Oh
god.
my God. Oh
Yeah,
my
right,
God.
right.
So there's weird moments like that for me. I mean, there's been moments in a lot of my in-person events, on events, and I go like, excuse my language, but you can't make this shit up. You
No,
can't.
you
Like,
can't.
when it happens, it happens, you know?
Yeah.
You gave me a reading once. You were doing a dem at my crystal store back in 2017, right before I sold it and moved.
I don't even remember, Kelly.
It was in January. It was in January 2017. You were doing a dem at the crystal store, and everybody's getting readings, and I'm just like love watching you. And I'm not expecting a reading. I'm standing up by the register, and you just like out of nowhere just flipped like a 180 and looked right at me and go, I have your father. And you brought through my dad, and then you said, and you're moving. And I was like, no, I'm not moving. Why would I leave the beach, AJ? I am not moving. You're wrong there. And you're like, I don't know what to tell you, but you're moving. And so it wasn't but 4 months later we had decided to move. And I was like, damn, AJ, you made this happen.
It's all AJ's fault.
I know. But you
Oh
said
my
you
God.
said I was moving, and you also then told me after the fact, I think we had like a little going away party, and you totally gave me the greatest advice on said what was going to happen here in Sacramento, and you were like 100% right.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that. And that was just like friend to friend. It wasn't medium to medium, you know?
Yeah.
We were just
You know,
having some drinks with my daughter and your wife.
yeah. I mean, I think, those, things are the best thing to have, because again, like growing up doing this work, I didn't have those people to give me that advice or to
Yeah.
really give me the support or have that friendship. Yeah, I had friends, but it wasn't the
Yeah.
advice that I needed, like in the industry or in the field. You know what I mean? I did not know anyone in the field
Yeah.
except for my mentor. And then,
Mhm.
John Holland came along like later because he did an
Mhm.
appearance on the radio show. That's how that happened. We connected. And then Robert Brown connected because my mentor. So it's kind of like, again, all those wheels kind of all turned in the right
Yeah.
direction at the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm
it's
glad for
funny
that.
because it's all spirit, I mean,
Yes.
spirit, it's like that divine timing,
Yep.
Yes. I
I
love
mean,
it.
everything is divine, and I love how, because I've been doing this for many years too, and I get so shocked.
Yeah.
And it makes me giggle every time I get shocked by something, right? Because it's like, but it's spirit. I should just
Yeah.
like anticipate the whatever, kind
It
of
is
thing.
amazing how it happens. I mean, I just started teaching at my new mentorship that just started this month. And one of my students in my level 1, he's like a beginner supposedly, and he is, but he's not. Anyways, he came all the way from Oregon, and I was like, you flew in just for this monthly workshop
Wow, that's
and
great.
all the way from Oregon. How on earth did you find me? He goes, well, Spirit brought me here.
Wow. That just
And
gave me
that's
chills.
and then I heard his story, and we have like the same story and the same kind of background in some ways of like memories and having this gift since like birth and remembering being born in first year and all
Wow.
that. He's just, so obviously spirits like you two need to work together.
Yeah.
I need to help him, but he's such an amazing medium and he's just started, and he goes into, I hope he doesn't mind me talking, I'm not going to say his name, but he goes into almost a trance.
Oh, wow.
Ooh,
Like
Wow.
that's cool.
instantly, and you could see spirit over him, and I was
Oh
like,
my
okay,
gosh.
this guy's good, and it's scary for him, so I'm helping him through that, but it's quite amazing how he found me. And then I thought back to how I met Allison. I was developing already, and I wanted more, and Medium Fleur is like, well, why don't you start taking workshops, Kelley? And she's like, and you're a natural trans medium, so why don't you look up
Yep.
trans healing, trans mediumships, any of that, because
Yep.
I've never seen anybody go into trance like you do, Kelley, and you just started, so you could go to intermediate advanced classes, you don't need to take the beginners. And so that was like from Fleur, and I was like, okay. So I just started Googling trans mediumship classes and came across this workshop in Seattle and flew to Seattle, not knowing anybody or anything, and met Allison and all these amazing mediums who are friends still. And then I also took Tony Stockwell at Omega and met, so it was like the beginning of my like career, kind of been developing a while, but really kind of threw myself into this trance stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I love this.
And that's a direction where you need to be. I mean, a lot of people don't understand, there's, again, mental mediumship, trance mediumship,
Mm-hmm.
and people that don't know trance mediumship, there's also, like, when we consider trance, it's like transfiguration. There's also
Mm-hmm.
that happens where there's an overlay of spirit. There's also
Right.
physical mediumship, which I don't have my trumpet, but I have my trumpet that I use with it. And I don't know if you guys know what a mediumship trumpet is.
I
But
do. Yes,
yeah.
I've seen this
No,
happen
I've
before.
never heard of a mediumship trumpet.
Yeah,
What
Okay,
is a
it's
it's
mediumship trumpet?
fascinating.
Yeah, it's not a
Fascinating.
trumpet that you play. It's an
No.
aluminum, like, kind of what do you call
You
them?
put it
Like
on the ground,
Yep.
and they usually will put it on a piece of paper and draw a circle around it so you know if it moved.
Yep.
And
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
in a
Sure.
spirit
That's
circle,
cool.
or what would you call that? A where they,
Ectoplasm.
well,
Ectoplasm, yeah.
in a circle where they sit all the time, and the medium sits in the box.
Yep. Spirit cabinet.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know my terminology. I just draw a blank, so appreciate you. We're a good team here. The trumpet and other things will lift up in the air. I've actually been to one where they prepared the room for 3 days. When we walked in there was such a thick fog and smell of potpourri or roses or whatever you want to call it. And during the whole event, there was like 30 of us in the room. 2 ladies got sick because it was overwhelming for them, had to leave, and we had to start over. And I heard an opera singer in the background.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we saw things floating around. I saw so many spirits in the room coming around and touching us. They would touch our legs. They would grab our hands. So much
fun.
And it was amazing. I'll never forget that. That was with Allison. She was like, that was.
Have you ever seen Tony Stockwell do his?
Yes.
Oh, He's
No.
amazing. Oh my
He
gosh.
changes, his face
His whole
changes.
body. Yeah.
Oh
And you
wow.
can see different faces come on from people's loved ones in the audience, and he speaks for them as well as he does
Yeah.
Zoltar, or I
Oh
don't know what the guy's.
wow.
Yeah, he does that. I mean, I've seen mediums. That stuff is what I would love to do one day, but that doesn't. It's not like something everybody wants to see.
Right.
Can
Yeah.
I tell you about one of the first times I ever channeled? Oh my gosh. I was in a mediumship circle and I could feel this thing happening. And this is years and years ago. And I could feel this thing happening to me. And I was just like, I started talking and talking. And there was a lady there and she's like, I think that's for me. And I was like, oh, I'm in the zone. I'm in the zone. And she goes, it's Jim Morrison. And I went, oh, and then in that split second, I started fangirling in my head. Right? And like, I'm like, oh my God. Oh, Jim Morrison. Oh my God, Jim Morrison's here. And all of a sudden I could hear him say, oh, I'm out of here. And he was like, because I didn't know how would I, but
That is so amazing.
he's come back since then because he's cool. But
I got a star one. I've got 2 stars before. I know AJ reads for stars, but I was really excited because I got, so there's a Hawaiian singer from the 70s. Do you guys remember him?
Don Ho.
Don Ho. I got Don Ho. One of his dancers came to get a reading, and she was like a daughter to him. She had known him her whole life and was on his show. And I'm bringing him through this guy, and I'm like, oh, he's so cool. He's like such a Hawaiian guy, and I love singing, and he's just so loving towards you, and I want to dance. And she's like, yep.
Oh.
And so it was Don Ho, and then
Aww, that's so
20th Century Fox,
Okay.
the family that started it. What is it? The black and white films.
Yep,
The girl Virginia Fox. I brought through the whole family. The great grandmother. The grandfather and the great grandfather, the grandfather, and then the guy's father. I got the son came for a reading because his wife found me on Facebook, and he cool. When I was telling him all the stuff, I didn't know who he was or anything. And at the end, he told me, you just brought through, because I brought through the Brat Pack because his dad was like really close with the Brat Pack. I'm like, I don't know, I keep seeing the Brat Pack, and I'm hearing Frankie sing, and I feel like I'm sitting in the audience with Frankie having a drink, and he was dying, and he was like, oh my God, that was my dad, that was my grandfather. And and they talked about like just great. Those are my 2 stars things. I'm so proud of them.
It's amazing because when I have done readings for people that are entertainment, that are living, and people that were entertainment in their past and they passed on, they don't come through, at least for me, in the way that I think people think they would come through.
Right.
Meaning like it's not going to be like, hey, I'm Elvis Presley. Hey, I'm Michael Jackson. Hey,
I had no idea who I was reading for either. I mean, I was seeing the black and white films. I was seeing all this stuff, but I didn't know who they were.
Yeah. And that's how it was when Jim Morrison came through. I didn't know who he was. I thought he was cool. I thought this is a really cool spirit, because I was loving that vibe, But then I was like, oh.
I remember in my early years of starting this, like when I was 18 or 19 years old, I'm almost 40 now. So when I started doing this work, was it 18? Yeah, probably 18, 19. So, during the time I was doing calls, like home calls and house calls and whatever. I would go to a person's home and whatever and do the reading there, which, all my readings are done now virtually via Zoom. Doesn't make any difference. Energy is energy.
Yeah.
Right.
During the time of the reading, I didn't know who these people were, like spirit that were coming through, but I had these individuals sitting in front of me. And I remember telling, and sorry for the dog in the background, guys.
Chiming in. He's chiming in.
But I was seeing, sorry, I was seeing, a person that looked like Elton John. I'm like, I don't know. I have this guy that's on a piano and this and that, and he's bringing through a lady, and they're drinking tea together, and so on and so forth. And at the time, I was bringing through all this information about the passing, their lifestyles, and so on and so forth. At the end of the reading, the individuals go like, you were talking to Liberace and May West, which they were good friends together and they were hanging out. Yeah, which they knew.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, and I was only like, for me at the time, I'm like, who's Liberace? Literally had to look him up because I had no idea who he was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is, but didn't you also connect with Michael Jackson?
Michael Jackson, Prince.
Yep.
There's a lot of
Prince
different
comes
people.
through to me too. He's
Yeah.
like a guide for me. He loves hanging out with me. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, when they come through, it's really like people think I can just summons the person. It's usually because the person in front of me is either a family
Connected.
member, a
Yeah.
friend, or
Yeah.
connected, like immediately connected. And
Yeah.
people think like, you know, when the information happens, it's because I pull it out. You know, there are people
Yeah.
that I know that actually, like, I don't have it here, but do automatic writing. They channel messages from
Yeah.
Source, from
Yeah.
divine, or from that individual,
Yeah.
and we all work differently. So, however, again, this is why I think it's so important for people to understand mediumship in general and the process. It's so important because, again, we all work differently. We all do the same job about healing people and wanting to help people, but we all work differently by doing that.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of times with my
It's so
beginner
good.
students, they overthink everybody's body language. So instead of like, and people don't like to be blindfolded. So I have them write everything down on a piece of paper first before they give the reading. Just, you know, I tell them you have 5 minutes, connect with her loved one, don't say anything, and you just sit there and you just write everything you get, no matter what.
Yeah.
Even if it's, and they give like the best readings and it helps them with their confidence. And that's it's not exactly automatic writing, but it is very much like automatic writing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, you kind of think of it as like billet reading. Like when I first started doing this work, one thing, I think I've only taken maybe a couple classes, you know, coming into this work. And it was a gentleman, I can't remember his last name, but excuse me, his first name is Royce. He passed on. He used to work at the Learning Light Center in Anaheim. He was Native American, and I went to a couple of his classes, maybe 2 or 3. And by the way, again, I was, I think, younger than 18 years old, so I was actually having my brother, my older brother, take me. I think
Oh my God.
take me to Anaheim and drive me
love
over
that.
there, take classes. My brother's one of the biggest skeptics, doesn't believe it, but yet he'll refer all his friends to me, like, "Hey, go check him out." I don't believe
That's
it.
hilarious.
My
he's one of
husband's the
those
same
people,
way.
so-
My husband
Yeah.
doesn't believe in any of this stuff.
My husband totally does, but my daughter is a skeptic, but sends her friends to me.
Yeah, I think that's fun because, like, I again going to the energy part. Like, one thing I learned was like a billet reading. Like, I remember Royce telling me, like, saying, "Hey, you know, write down a number. Everyone write down a number of the group. Throw it in a basket, and then everyone grab it, bang that number, hold on to it, and then throw it back and exchange it. And basically, would read the number. What we do is do the transfer of energy, and then read the person that wrote that number, which is a little bit difficult because there's another layer of energy that's there. So that's how I started learning. And I was like, holy crap, I can actually talk to the dead. I can actually do information. Because honestly, Lauri and Kelley, all I thought that I was able to do was actually see auras and colors and do psychic reading. That's all I was really, that was like my main forte. Mediumship came in afterwards. And when mediumship happened, it was like, oh, it was like the angels. I was like, oh my God, there's literally like voices, not outside my head, but voices, my own thought that was coming through. Messages. Yeah.
Well, it comes, I think that's how it expands, you know? I mean, like spirit, no, I know I keep saying this today, but it's like spirit knows what you can handle. And then when spirit opens up the whole thing to you, then you're just like, oh, this is it. This is why. Oh, I had to go through this because I went through that first, you know, that sort of thing. I mean, I'm 58 years old and I didn't start until I was 40. I mean,
this does not look 58, Lauri.
Well, thank you so much.
You look really
Some
good.
days I feel 40, some days I feel 60.
I'm 52 and I feel like I'm 80 some days because of my knees.
You know, you just have to go with the flow, right? And that's the beauty of Zoom. Doing this work on Zoom.
This is true. Like, this isn't Zoom, but yes, this is true.
Well, exactly. You know what I mean, though. Yeah.
Virtual. Yeah.
Well, I know that when I first started, so I've always saw spirits, always had thank you. I've always had the gift since I was a kid, but never embraced it or wanted it and tried to hide from it, but it would never go away, right? You can't run from it. It's like, so when I first started embracing it, it was because of my child, right? And I remember the first time I did a class and I did a reading for somebody, it was the most amazing feeling ever, feeling spirit in my energy, because I've never done it awake. I've always done it half asleep or in an altered state, you know? When all my life, like I've always seen people, but never like awake unless I was really young. So I remember how I want to say it's almost like addicted. I could not get away from it. I wanted to do it all the time. I wanted to take so many courses, but there weren't enough.
Yeah.
And I was going to every dem to see every medium I could and watching every YouTube because it was just like my mind just opened up and I couldn't read enough books or see enough videos or read enough like anything or learn from it. Was like I was like a sponge.
Yeah.
But did you ever find it to be like addicting in that sense in the beginning?
Oh, 100%. I'm still that way. I mean,
I'm still that way too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have,
Me too.
I have
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
this is actually a really small part of the library. I have a whole another library outside another room and also in the garage. I have so many
Oh my
books
gosh.
because I was a sponge and I still see myself
Yeah.
that way. I want to absorb everything.
Yes.
So my mentor, Ellen Marin Schilix, I mean, if she was, I don't know if she's on here, but she would tell you, she would always tell people he was like a sponge. He would absorb. He wanted to know, like, my thing was always, but why? But
Yeah.
why?
Oh, I love that.
Why?
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think she got so annoyed with me. She was like, sometimes she's like, I
Like a
don't know why.
2-year-old.
Like, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you, like, when people would ask me, like, AJ, like, how do you drop your energy? How do you speed it up? I go, you just do. I go, you just do it this way. But how? I'm like, oh God, was I that annoying as a kid? Yeah, as a kid. When I see, certain students, myself and certain students where I'm like, oh my God. I go like, I get it. I totally get it. And so when you have teachers that really take the time to help you on that journey, again, like I only had a few of them. If I can help so many different people, which is why I love teaching, I want
Isn't
more.
that the best? When
Yeah.
you recognize that and that light bulb goes off. And I know that sounds like I could be a high school teacher, but it's so true
It's
of
a beautiful
mediumship
feeling to
world.
watch. Yes.
You know,
I
never had
enjoy teaching that.
I never had any idea I was going to be a teacher. I was in the music industry for many years. I mean, come on, that's like whatever. My mother was a teacher.
Oh,
So
wow.
what happens? She passes away. And then all of a sudden, all these teaching opportunities come to me to like teach mediumship. And it's like, okay, Mom, I understand. Thanks so much. It's
I
like,
don't know. I think I might have been a teacher in a past life.
no.
I have an obsession with my bell in class when I'm teaching. I love to ring my little bell.
I'll bring a whistle. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my God.
I got a nice little bell. And I always wanted one, and now I have one, and I'm just always using it. And my students just laugh at me because I'm like a nerd with it. I'm like, class, everybody back, come back in. Break's over. Ring, ring.
Oh my
It's
God.
easy. It's easier to get people's attention, honestly, because when I do courses, by usually the end of 1 day or 2 days, my voice is already gone.
Yeah.
So by me trying to get the class's attention, especially if it's a large group, even with a small group, because I talk a lot, when I do my work, it's like, oh my God, I should have a bow or whistle. But yeah, I totally get it. But I think it's part of like what you love doing. You love teaching. It's part of you. So
How often do you do classes, AJ?
Actually, this is my first workshop, not only in-person workshop, but my first workshop of the year. Usually I teach about 7 courses a year. So that's from numerology, that's from physical mediumship, when spirit cabinet box, trance, beginner's mediumship, intermediate, advanced psychic investigation, and also a certification law enforcement class as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I can only like tell everybody that if you're in the Sacramento area, if you're like close to the Sacramento area, it's like maybe a 2-3 hour drive. You definitely want to come for this workshop. But you could come Friday night, watch us STEM, get a hotel, take the workshop on Saturday, and go home.
Actually, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to do it because I have work.
Yeah. But I feel like you want to do this. He is an amazing, amazing teacher. You will have fun in the class, and you will learn something, and you'll meet other like-minded souls. And
100%.
I can't say enough about it. So if anybody is interested, he has the course, and we're doing a dem, him and I together Friday night. But he's teaching that course.
Yep.
And it was funny because you'd ask me like, did you want to teach with me, Kelly? And I'm like, heck no, I can't teach with you. You're like in another level. Like, no, I want you to teach, he's just, I don't teach investigation or any of that. So that's all AJ. But the next time you come up, we live near, Nevada City, and there's lots of haunted places.
Yes.
And there's this one place in Nevada too, if we wanted to go to Reno, it's like 2 hours away, where you can rent out this haunted like old hotel for the night.
Oh wow.
So fun.
That'd be
I
super cool.
think it's in Virginia City.
Oh wow.
It's been on a lot of TV shows. I have been wanting to ask you about doing something there. I mean, I will help put it together, but it's all yours. I just want to go.
No, that'd be fun just to do it because I love just doing investigations. A lot of people don't know that when I do have the time to do it, I actually do
Fascinating.
investigations on the side. I'll go to, a business or this location, this and that. I don't always post them up on social media or YouTube, but I usually document everything, either video, audio, all that stuff, because again, it's about finding the documentation of, soul survival. You know what I mean?
The
So,
Washoe Club, that's what it's called.
oh yeah, okay.
It
What
is
is it called?
Washoe Club. Washoe
Washoe
Club.
Club.
It's in Virginia City. It's such an amazing little town. I stopped there with my friends Patty and Rudy one day with my husband. We all were in Reno, went to go visit it because we're like, her and I are mediums, and we dragged our husbands along and we went on a tour. And I felt so much stuff. Oh my gosh, some of the rooms were just so crazy because it used to be a place where I don't know how old it is, but they had call girls, the place. They had it was a bar and a hotel and it was a brothel at one point. But it's been many things over the years. I forget the whole story, but amazing.
Oh, that reminds me. Have you ever been to the Hollywood Palace?
No.
It's actually called the Avalon now.
The Avalon. I've been there for an event, not for investigation though. But but not for investigation. I've done some different places. I think the last one I did was the Marchfield Air Base in San Bernardino or Moreno Valley, and it's they actually have all the airplanes from Vietnam and everything else, and when they have the soldiers in there and they actually carry the bodies in the airplanes, or was it the 757? I can't remember what it was, but it's 751 maybe. I can't remember, but we actually were able to go into the plane where they actually loaded the bodies and they had the vets in them, and we actually ran some EVPs. We were streaming well, I wasn't streaming, but someone was streaming, and there was an apparition that appeared, like the girl screamed, like that was in the room with us investigating.
Oh my gosh.
Someone actually saw it on the feed, and was able to go back.
My gosh.
We saw an apparition, like a lady appear. And it was a nurse that was taking care of the people on the airplane. So there's been some amazing experiences. There was one experience there too. Another experience where even security guards, they actually had different TV shows go there to film and didn't really capture anything. I was just there with a recorder and some of my equipment and just doing my own thing. And we actually had these orbs of light that were like four of them together, like in alignment, just circling around in this room. There's nothing that shows reflection. There's nothing that shows any lighting. There's no windows. And even security, the owners were like, we've never had this happen. They said, we just had blah, blah, blah here, film here. A couple of weeks ago, we just had that. I'm like, it's nothing to do with our equipment. It's just like, it's just their
it's spirit.
It's
spirit.
So it's super cool. I mean, again, for me, I'm always fascinated with it because like, if that's something that I can show people like, hey, look, what are your thoughts or what's your opinion? And you're always going to have people saying, oh, it's this or that, or it's bugs.
Well, we know the truth.
Yeah, exactly. Like if they had to choose, that's fine. That's not their journey. It's mine though. Yeah. I'm not a ghost chaser or like, but I love the stuff and I would rather be involved in it than watch it on TV.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah.
It's just
I hate watching those shows.
Me too, because it's like, it's like cut. Like they give you just little blurbs of it all. Except I do love watching Cindy Kaza. Her show has been amazing.
She's amazing.
Oh yeah.
She's an amazing medium.
Oh, I just love her, and I'm a big fan of like so many people. I think I'm a groupie, but I'm okay with. I love all these mediums, and I love when they come to town. I'm like on it. I'm like at the shows because I love watching them.
I mean, there are certain mediums that I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think there's a delay, but there are certain mediums that like, even that I see them like in certain town, even if it's Orange County, LA County, San Diego, wherever it's at, I'm like, oh, I want to go see them. But every time I want to see them, either I'm booked, I'm busy or something. And I'm like, oh, and then I don't want to reschedule a client or client and say like, hey, I gotta want to do that just to be selfish. But I'm like, God, but every time I'm like, oh, they're going to be in town. I look at my calendar. I'm like,
I know that happens now when you get busy. Well, it is. We've gone a little bit over, but that's okay. We can go over, and I just didn't want to stop you because I just felt like we could talk all night. But it is late. It is late, and I know you guys probably have things to do. So I do want to say,
AJ, you are extraordinary. Thank you so much for allowing me to kind of nudge my way in here.
Well, thank you, Lauri, because you've been so much fun too. And I feel like the three of us together are just having a great time,
Right.
you know?
Well, it's a pleasure,
but-
Lauri, to meet you, I guess, officially in the right way as
Yeah.
well. And thank you for being here, and thank you for asking all these great questions. And Kelley, obviously,
Yeah.
thank you for being here. And you know, obviously Cheryl's not here, but thank you both, you know, for sharing this platform
Yeah.
as well, for not only allowing me but other mediums to be on the show to share their awareness, but also share that, you know, the soul still survives after death.
It does. It does. And thank you everybody on out in social media land and on the radio station watching us. We do appreciate it, and we will be back next week. And I hope you love the new time, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I am going to sign off and say goodbye to everybody. So AJ, thank you. Lauri,
night, guys.
thank you.
See you guys
Good
tonight.
night.
Nice to meet you, AJ. Bye,
Nice to meet you.
Kelley.
You guys have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.